my tour of duty. So I went to Colombia, right, on a 2-year tour. So almost 6.5 years later, my time is up. That's the max DEA will let you go.
Right,
I
right.
told my wife we were going for 2 years, 6.5 years, but the work was fantastic and we had a good life there.
Yeah.
And made a lot of good Colombian friends whom I miss to this day.
So why Midland, Texas? Why did you choose Midland, Texas?
I didn't choose Midland, Texas.
Okay.
DEA told me it was time to come out,
Okay.
and they said, you're going to Midland, Texas. I had to look on the map. I had driven through there once to see where it was.
Okay.
And so I ended up in Midland, Texas.
And once you got here, once you got to Midland, what'd you think?
Well, December 7th, 2007, I still remember the day. It was my Pearl Harbor. I left Colombia. It was, and for those of you who don't know Bogota, it's a city of about 7 million people, high rises, but it's in the high mountains in the Andes, about 7,000 feet. It's beautiful up there. And it's not jungle. Everyone thinks it's the jungle. You have to drive to or fly to the jungle. So I left there. Everything's green. It's rainforest up there. So that evening, just before dark, I'm flying into Midland, Texas. And if anyone's ever been to West Texas, it looks like the moon. It's very flat, and it almost looks like the moon because it looks cratered, but it's because there are all the oil pump jacks and the oil pads out there because it's the Permian Basin where a lot of the top U.S. oil production is. So I went from high mountain greenery to the flat Southwest desert overnight. And okay, I was going to be the resident agent in charge of a resident office there, 9-county area of responsibility.
Yeah.
But overnight, I also went from working the largest narco-terrorism group in the world at the time and working cocaine labs, multi-ton seizures to, God, if we got a 5-kilo case in Midland, that would be a big case.
Yeah, it's an interesting transition, right? So you go from domestic to foreign, back to domestic, and you're working multi-ton cases, and now you're back here doing 5-kilo deals, and you're going, all right.
No, back to my roots, right?
Right.
Regular law enforcement officer. The makeups of the cases are the same.
Right.
It's just the size and maybe the complexity of the organizations.
Yeah.
So, but I found out something really interesting when I did this. I wasn't happy. I was told to go there.
Told to go to Colombia.
No, to Midland.
Oh, to Midland.
To Midland.
Okay.
No, Colombia I loved.
Oh, okay.
I loved part of my soul in Colombia.
Yeah.
And so I get to Midland. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make the best of this.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty quiet office when I got there because it's called Midland because Midland's midway between Fort Worth and El Paso, Texas. It's 300 miles each way.
Okay.
So didn't know much about it, but I said, I'll make a good deal. And everyone's like, it's the Permian Basin. It's crazy out there. Well, it's great people out there. It's kind of the heart and soul of a lot of Texas that lives out there in the Midland, Odessa area. And so I had young kids at the time, my wife, and other than she wasn't used to the smell in the air, which was petroleum and gas that you smell out there all the time. But we got used to it. It was a great place to raise kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was there about 12 months and everyone's like, hey, you got to promote, you got to get out of there. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have any mandatory promotions anymore I have to take or mandatory moves. This is kind of a nice little community for me to raise my kids in.
Yeah.
And so...
and Iraq is a good job.
Yeah. It can be a good or a bad job, depending who you're working with. But I had a 9-county area of responsibility. We had great law enforcement agencies. It was old school law enforcement. We had great prosecutors who were willing to prosecute. It reminded me of working with the Southern District in New York. So we struggled initially with trying to get off the ground, getting some decent cases. But then once we got going, once you start getting good cases, you get more informants and the cases get better and better. And then I was getting better detectives who wanted to come over and work in the task force. And we evolved into a top functioning unit there, to the point that we even started a HIDTA there, which is a high intensity drug trafficking area where we got more funding for the work that we were doing because we were so active out there. And we end up being the top producing group out of the El Paso division, which is all of New Mexico and the rest of Texas, or West Texas.